Namaste to everyone. I'm Ravindra. I work with an organization called WASSAN based in Hyderabad. I thank Manish for giving me this opportunity to sort of share our perspectives on water in natural farming. I draw upon the rich experiences on the field of our own organization of AP Community Natural Farming and Revitalizing Rainfed Agriculture. Revitalizing Rainfed Agriculture Network works across the country, and then the rich experiences across different states. I would like to draw upon these field experiences to give a perspective on water in natural farming, which means how you look at water resources in natural farming. So to understand water resources in natural farming, the starting point is we should ask three questions. One is, what are all the places where water is present? Different locations where water is present. And second is different forms of water other than seawater, because it can't be used for agriculture. What are the forms of water, and which form of the water is most abundant in that particular area or in the particular region? And then third is how best you can harness this water, whichever form it is available. What places where water is available, what forms water is available, and how do you harness the forms of water which is abundantly available in the geography. Understanding these questions will give you a good starting point for exploring water in natural farming. If you look at the first question, where water is abundant, the first naturally occurring thing for is water bodies, dams, check dams, farm ponds, streams, and all that. Second is we always see groundwater as a water resource, and most importantly, we all do not actually care much is soil moisture. And the fourth form of it is atmospheric water. There's a lot of water present in the air. That is atmospheric water, and there's a lot of water that plants imbibe, plants take from the roots, and it is there in major part of plant's composition is plant water. Of all the forms, five forms of the water other than the seawater, if you keep aside the seawater, question is in which form water is abundant. So it is quite counterintuitive to common visualization, because we see water as flowing water stored in big ponds and all that. But reality is that soil moisture and atmospheric water in the soil and in the air is the largest percentage of rainfall that is received. Of all the water that we receive in a particular area, the largest amount of water is stored as soil moisture and as an atmospheric water. Since ages, we haven't really dealt with this form of water, which is more than 60-70% of the total composition of water that is available to us. And then we have been concentrating on water in water bodies, irrigation through check dams and all that, or pumping water from the groundwater, but never actually looked at how we actually harness the soil moisture and atmospheric water and use this kind of a water for plant growth and green biomass. I'll deal with that point that we are making is, we need to focus on soil moisture and atmospheric water. Natural farming is actually brings the focus on soil moisture and atmospheric water versus the conventional farming, which is mostly dependent on irrigation, and then either through surface irrigation or through groundwater. So this is one particular paradigm shift that the natural farming brings in. Then let us look at where and how much of water is actually distributed across these sources. So if you take 100 raindrops falling on the soils, only 2 drops will be stored in the water. That is what we see as water in the ponds and all that is only 2% of the total rainfall that we receive. And around 12%, or 12 drops out of the 100 drops goes to the streams. It's available in the streams as stream flows are in the stream beds. But what happens to the 86 drops? Now that is the significant percentage, 86% of the total rainfall that is there either as soil moisture, green growth, and then soil moisture evaporates, and then there's a lot of water that goes into the air. So 36 drops will go into transpiration and green growth. Green growth is how plants take water from the soil and convert that, uses that water into generating biomass. So all the biomass is the most efficient, which actually gives us the food. So how much of water we are using for the green growth is what is called the water efficiency. So we have never looked at it in this format, but we only looked at it as the 2% that is stored in the dams, or some percentage that goes into the soil. Into the groundwater. That would be about 10-20%, not more than that. So atmospheric water again is a huge reservoir. So water in the air is up to 50,000 parts per million. The question now is, can we harness these 86 drops for agriculture, for growth, for livestock, for livelihoods? So that's where natural farming comes in. And then the ideas of natural farming comes in. So whereas traditionally we are focusing on the groundwater and then the surface water, but now we shift water for green growth. How much water you can harness, how much water you can harness in the soil moisture, how much of the atmospheric air you can actually use for the green growth, and such things. That is the core of water management in natural farming. I'll present this picture. If you look at this picture, you can really see the 3 zones of it. The first zone, you can see the dark color, and then the second zone is sort of degrading soils, and third zone is by and large the rock outcrop, from where the base material, from where the soil is forming. You can see the color difference. Why the color difference? Because you also can see the roots extend only to the first part. This is the soil zone where water is available in the soil, and where plants can actually send their roots to extract nutrients and soil moisture. And then this is the zone, if you see the roots, if they go deeper, and then the interaction of these things where the roots convert the degrading material into soil. And then you see entire life in the surface, the trees and all that, how much of soil that they are depending on. Look at this tree, and then this is the place where it is extracting all its moisture and nutrients, and then this is growing. So entire life above the soil is in nature depends on how much of soil we have, where the roots can extract, and how much of rainfall that you actually can infiltrate into the soil and you can retain in the soil. If you can't infiltrate the water into the soil, rainfall into the soil, and retain it here, then either it goes as runoff or go deep percolation. All that water is not available for life above the ground. So how do you maximize harvesting water in this soil is the key to success of any crop growth, or whether it is natural farming or chemical farming. That is the most important thing. So let us focus on understanding this water cycle slightly more elaborately. If there is rainfall here, and then what happens to this rain that is falling on the ground? If it falls on the ground, and if there is no percolation, suppose if it is all cemented, all it goes as runoff. Because it is not cemented, then some part of it will go into the soil. This is the soil zone that I referred here. So this is where the plant roots will be there, and then the rainfall that is infiltrating into the soil is retained into this. When the soil reaches a saturation, it goes into the deep percolation, and there will be some subsurface flows out of the area also. Subsurface flows that may come in also. And then major problem is evaporation. Even after when the rain falls, the soil gets soaked, and then after the rain stops, if the sun comes up, then a lot of the soil moisture gets evaporated. So this is a loss. And some part of the water plants take through their system, and it evaporates to the leaf. That is called transpiration. This is not a waste. This is where water is converted into the biomass and food grains, vegetables, and all that. So transpiration is a what is called necessary evil, is a very good thing. But evaporation is a loss, runoff is a loss, and deep percolation is also a loss, because it goes into the groundwater. You have to dig some 300 feet deep, and then put a 5 HP, 10 HP pump to lift it up and use it. Instead, if you can actually store water within the root zone, that is directly available for the plant, where we can build our farming technologies, farming practices. So the water mantra in rain-fed areas, I'll say, is harvest maximum amount of rainfall in the soil profile and retain it in the soil for a longest period of time possible. So if you can achieve these two, then you can achieve many benefits out of local rainfall, be it is 400 mm or 1000 mm or 1200 mm or more. So how much of water is retained in the soil is that is converted into food and biomass. So the mantra is this: harvest max in the soil and retain for the longest period. The question is how you are going to do that. So if you look at this, so to prevent evaporation, I'll just talk about this. The losses are evaporation and runoff. No, so these are the two losses which goes when rainfall goes out of the system. So to prevent evaporation, you have to have soil covered. If the soil is not covered, then soil hardens. If it is hardened, then less amount of rainfall actually goes into the soil profile, and most of it is going away from the system as a runoff. So to prevent runoff, it's not only necessary to have the soil conservation structure, but it's important to keep the soil covered. And it is important to keep soil covered for various other reasons also. Because once the soil profile is filled with moisture to the saturation level, then if the sun comes out, there is a lot of evaporation. So there is something called a capillary rise, which means the water that is in the soil profile, if it gets connected to the air, then there is a draw up of water from soil profile to the atmosphere. So a lot of soil through the capillary rise will go out as evaporation. To control this evaporation, what you need to do is work on the surface of the soil. Keep the surface of the soil with mulch or whatever is available, ideally through a crop system, for most part of the year. Ideally all 365 days. And if the soil is directly exposed to the sun, then the temperature on the soil increases. If the soil temperature increases, it actually takes away the moisture out of the soil. So you have to keep the soil cool. How do you keep the soil cool? Is only through mulch, through actually covering the surface. And don't allow sun rays to fall on the ground. Let the biomass take it. If sun rays falls on the ground, kahavat ye hai ki the proverb is that it leads to drought. And the sunlight falling on the soil directly is drought. Sunlight falling on the leaves is food. So it is a choice of the crop system. If you allow the sun rays to fall on the soil and then make it hardened and then high temperature resulting into evaporation and resulting into drought kind of situation, or you cover the soil with crops and mulch and all that and convert this entire light into food. So that is where the efficiency of the system lies in. How you efficiently harvest the rainfall and also harvest the sunlight. So either way you take it, covering the soil for longest period of time is very essential. And if you cover the soil, then the surface of the soil and the atmosphere, that is porous, that becomes porous. No, it is not hardened. If it is porous, it allows most of the rainfall to percolate down rather than going out as runoff. So it has covering the soil has three advantages. One, it breaks the soil capillaries and then doesn't allow the water to evaporate. Second, it reduces the soil temperature, so evaporation is reduced, and it allows the crop growth. Okay, this is one part. So the one of the systemic work in the crop systems, in the soil management, we need to look at is how much of the soil and how long we can cover. Ideally through the crop covers. So the longer crop systems that exist for up to February, March would be the ideally all through the year. Therefore, we also say, if you integrate trees, the trees actually cover biomass. It has lot of leaf shredding, and then the diverse crop systems. It's very important to look at that, where a combination of shallow and deep-rooted plants. Suppose if this is the soil zone and your roots are only up to this part, then you cannot really use the moisture that is in this zone. So if you have varied crop systems, diverse crop systems, multi-crop systems, some having shallow roots, some having the deep roots, then you can actually cover the entire soil zone. And when these roots die, there is organic matter available in the deeper regions also. So more organic matter, more soil moisture. So each particle of organic matter, because the surface area is high, can absorb and adsorb lots of water. So increasing the soil organic matter is one of the most important aspects of this thing. So, and then no, whatever is the residual runoff that comes up with excesses can be actually harvested to by a small bund on the field, where along the contour preferably, where it allows the runoff to stay for a longer period within the plot, so that it allows more time for the water to percolate and get retained in the soil root zone. So essentially, we have 5 key aspects to managing crop systems and soil systems in natural farming. One, how you reduce soil temperature by improving the soil cover. As I told you, soil cover for 365 days is the most ideal, or if it's not possible, as long as it can be. And that can be achieved only through multi-tier, multi-durational crop systems. Single monocrop is disaster in rain-fed areas and natural farming. So that is the first principle. How you do it is you need to get to the practices which are location specific. Then how much of organic matter you can add to the root zone. The more organic matter in the root zone, the more absorption of the retention of the moisture. So we need to have high organic matter in the root zone. How it can be helped, we'll look at later. And then soil conservation to actually arrest the runoff and allow more time for the water to percolate down. Actually, if you have a good mulch and soil cover, your runoff will be very, very less. And then the fifth point is how you actually do a multi-tier crop systems where the root systems are in different layers. So these are the 5 basic principles in natural farming, what we understood over a long period of time across multiple agrogeographies, which will actually give you good results. Then the question is how. Now, what are the practices? These are the principles, let's say. Then what are the practices? How can you achieve? How do you work with the soil? Just to understand the soil aggregation much better, take these two, the wheat flour and wheat flour. If you put water on the wheat flour, much of it is actually drained, and you see the color of the water here because it has taken a lot of flour with it. So this is, instead of flour, if you take it as water, so when water pours on a bare soil, when a loose soil without structure, then water drains faster. This is runoff, and it also takes soil along with it. Soil and organic matter and fertilizers that you use, or the FIM that you use, everything will be drained along with the water. But if you look at the bread is formed not by any mechanical process. There is no machine that converts atta, the flour, to bread. It is basically the biological process. When the yeast actually builds a structure using the flour, then the structure is intact. In this, whatever amount of water you flow, the wheat flour will not go out because it is structurally bound within it. So the water that you see is less, it soaks more water and allows less water to drain, and water is clean. So this is the fundamental principle. You can explain, you can see and visualize how much it is important to have soil not in loose form. Soil is not inert material of silt, clay and loam. It has to be into a structure that allows it to actually hold nutrients, hold moisture, and hold plant growth, and hold lots of microbes. And that is possible only through microbial population in the soil. And another experiment that you can do, you can see this YouTube in the, these experiments in the YouTube also, where you put some soil of different nature. So this is an aggregate soil, a rich organic soil, and is relatively medium, and this is low. So the moment you put water, soil structure is holding tight. So what I mean, soil is not going out, but if you see the soil structure is actually fizzling out. So the soil will go away along with water. Where here the soil doesn't allow water to go fast till it is saturated. Second, it doesn't allow the soil particles to go out. So how does the soil structure forms? So we can see lots of literature is there, and then videos are also there. You can browse through the soil microbes and organisms in the soil, within the soil, makes soil aggregates like wheat flour to bread. Soil organic matter, soil microbial biomass actually binds the soil into aggregates where nutrients are held, and which increases the surface of the particles tremendously to hold water. So the essential feature then now is how you actually increase soil microbial biomass. So normally, instinctively, no, we cannot understand the relation between soil microbes and then the rainfall use efficiency or no, plant water use, but the moment you understand the linkages between rainfall, soils, soil percolation, percolation of rainfall into the soil, retention, and then the retention capacity of the soil depending on, and the soil aggregates are basically a function of soil microbial biomass, then you understand the linkages. And this is where we have to work. Water, crop systems, irrigation, and then water resource management is not just controlling the gates in the canal and all that. It is actually how you improve the biomass in the soil, microbial biomass in the soil. Okay, this is how the aggregation forms. If there is no biomass in the soil, no bacterial microbial biomass in the soil, fungal, bacterial biomass in the soil, then soil particles are tightly knit. So there is no room here for water to be there or the moisture to be there. So this fungi, the hyphae of the fungus actually spreads. Any bread that you leave out will have the fungal hyphae. If you see the length of the fungal hyphae, it's tremendous. These fungi penetrate in between the soil particles and create these voids, lots of voids. So the spaces, this pore spaces increases, and then this water that is possible to retain not only in between the particles but absorbed around the particles also. So it is very, very important to have these microbes and then fungi in the soil, so that it gives the structure and space and air and water in the soil. So one of the principles in the natural farming, what you call WASSAN, probably is also that how you connect the soil pores, water that is there in the soil pores, to atmospheric water. Suppose water in the air goes into the soil particle, so it also has lot of water. Air constitutes, particularly the humid air, has lot of water in it. So that also probably with the cooling and all that can actually bring water from air. Probably that is the principle, one of the principles of winter crops, how dew and all that makes it survive. So how do we harness this water in the atmosphere into this? This is to create some kind of a microclimate. Now, how do we create that microclimate is very, very important in water management. So if you just, I'll now come into the practical design, show you how these principles are applied on the ground. So this is the soil that actually monocropping has made in Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh, which is the second most arid district. So from a very diverse crop system, it has moved to a monocrop of groundnut and finally left soil as this. I mean, what kind of farming that you can do, what kind of output you can get out of this. Whatever the rainfall falls will soon evaporate because there is no soil cover. The groundnut is harvested in October, November. After that, till June, it is exposed to this thing. So there is no question you have any soil moisture retention. If the soil moisture is not retained, whatever amount of compost, organic matter you put into the soil desiccates fast. It doesn't build up organic carbon. So you cannot retain moisture in the soil and harvest rainfall. And these are the areas where irrigation is not possible because they are the elevated areas. So this used to be the crop system in that particular area. This is the traditional crop system called Navadanya. You see this, there are castor, there is red gram, there is groundnut, multiple, some 10 crops are there in this particular field. So from this kind of a system, we move to a monocrop system where entire soil is exposed and there is no biomass, and the groundnut harms are taken away for fodder. So literally you are not leaving anything on in the soil. So this kind of a movement created a disaster in rain-fed agriculture in Anantapur. So that's where water resource management is basically coming to the crop system management, soil resource management in rain-fed areas. So I'll show you another example. So look at this. This person has a small drip. He has a very half-inch borewell. Half acre he has converted into natural farm with diverse thing. This farmer in Chittoor district takes crops throughout the year. He earns about 40,000 rupees through this kind of a system per around half to three-fourths of an acre. So this is possible. This is possible in a rainfall area of about 600 mm or 500 mm, and it is much possible in any other source, and with some small supplementary water supplementation where the drought spells are there, then you can actually harness all the rainfall that is there in the soil, convert it into biomass. Soil is rich, and then they can actually sell the produce in the market. So this is another area where you can see the ridges, and the ridges covered with groundnut husk mulch, and then the furrows are covered with leaf mulch, and there's multiple crops. And that kind of a system will actually, suppose imagine in this particular area, if the rainfall falls, where does it grow? Each particle of this groundnut husk will hold moisture. Otherwise, it is a flat land which doesn't hold anything. Now, each leaf will hold the moisture. There are different leaves, different size leaves. Water doesn't falling on this leaf doesn't go to the soil. It stays here for some time. Then it stays on the mulch, and then all the groundnut husk will have water absorbed till it is soaked. So water is retained, retained in this thing, much higher proportion than you build bunds or whatever. How much this is the same system. This is in January month. You can see this after the harvesting of the red gram also, the stocks are there, and then whatever rainfall that falls, off-season rainfall, that is soaked into the grain. And look at the kind of leaf litter that is this particular thing. This is a field bean, which you can see still something is green in January. So this covers the soil till March. So much of biomass on the soil doesn't allow the soil temperature to go up. So this helps in retention of water. So the crop systems is a good way of managing water. So in this one particular village, where villagers identified all the fallow lands and then actually converted the fallow lands into multi-species fodder. So they just plow the land during the summer, put Ganjivamrutam there, and then some combination of crops that are best for the cattle in summer, and cover the crops. Cover the soil. Then when the first rainfall comes, it sprouts, and then even by July it gives you the first harvest of June. It gives you the first harvest of fodder, and then you can have 2-3 cuts. By this system, they have actually converted the whole fallow lands into fodder base. And by converting, they allowed water to be retained in these fallow lands. There's 100-200 acres of fallow lands where rainfall doesn't flow out. It will stay in this, because the first rains, they germinate, and by the time monsoon properly sets in, all the soil is covered with multi-species green matter at multiple layers. So huge amount of coverage like this will be there by June. So all the rains, heavy rains during July, August are captured into the soil. And when they capture into the soil, they flow slowly into the groundwater, they flow into the streamlines, and a huge amount of water is captured within the landscape. So at the same time, it also gives fodder. It is giving 13 tons of fodder per acre. This thing. So water management is not just stopping water from flowing, but it is actually how much of water that you are converting into what people call green growth, biomass. Biomass is food and livelihoods for people. Coming to the last slide, so we conventionally are seeing water is blue. Let us move away from that perspective of water, where water is measured as in irrigation in cubic meters, in ton metric cubes and all that, area irrigated as a metric and all that. This is the old paradigm. Now this is an irrigation paradigm. From that kind of a system, let us move, and natural farming is giving us very good method and tools in our hand to look at water as soil moisture. It is not about how much of water. See, this water is energy efficient, energy consumptive. Water coming from 300 feet from the ground, and then it flows out and then inundated. Where if you actually capture this water in the soil profile as soil moisture in millimeters, then it increases the soil moisture directly available to the soil. This is what we are calling rainfall use efficiency. This is the transformative perspective in water resource management in natural farming. If you're doing natural farming, then if you're looking at water, you have to see water as soil moisture. And then these are the principles of natural farming. You see the crop cover, 365 days, green cover, and then diverse crops, have 5 to 10 crops with multiple layers on the top and in the root system. High organic matter in the soil. Soil organic matter coming, getting it from outside is very costly. Generate the soil organic matter within the soil. And then don't disturb the soil much. And then without livestock, nutrient recycling will not happen. And then use biostimulants, so your microbial biomass will increase. That actually builds soil structure. That actually allows you to harness more water. If you use more chemicals, then all this microbiology will be vanishing and you are left with dirt, which doesn't help anyway. And then one way of avoiding is also use natural methods for managing pests and diseases. And indigenous seeds, we always found in our experience much better adapted in the local situations. And I invite you to get the websites of WASSAN, www.wassan.org or rainfedindia.org. And also I invite you, if you have experiences, to contribute to evolving practices of natural farming, evolving understanding of natural farming through those websites. Thank you very much.